Imagine losing your mother, attending her funeral, and then finding yourself at the center of a public controversy instead of a moment of healing. That is the story many viewers believe unfolded around Daystar after the death of Joni Lamb. What happened at the funeral? Why are people debating Jentizen Franklin's message? And why has Jonathan Lamb become such a central figure in the discussion? Let's break it down. When people gathered to remember Joni Lamb, many expected a time of mourning and reconciliation. Instead, reports and reactions afterward focused heavily on family tension. One of the biggest talking points was Jonathan Lamb. According to the discussion surrounding the event, he was not invited to speak during the memorial, was seated away from the main family focus, and some claims even suggested he was not invited to the burial. Whether every detail is fully accurate or not, the perception among many observers was that Jonathan was being treated differently from the rest of the family. Funerals are often seen as moments when families set aside disputes. Because of that, the reported treatment of Jonathan struck many viewers as unusually painful. The emotional reaction online was less about organizational politics and more about the image of a grieving son appearing isolated during one of the most difficult moments of his life. Supporters argued that whatever disagreements existed, a funeral should have been a place for unity. Critics of Daystar's leadership saw the event as evidence of deeper unresolved conflict within the family. That perception became a major part of the public narrative. The controversy intensified because of comments made by Jentizen Franklin during the funeral. Franklin's message emphasized honoring spiritual leaders and warned against criticism of those who are doing God's work. To some listeners, this sounded like a general call for respect. To others, it sounded like a defense of Joni Lamb and an indirect rebuke of people who had publicly challenged her decisions. This is where the debate became much larger than a family disagreement. There are essentially two interpretations of the message. Interpretation 1. Franklin was simply encouraging people not to attack a deceased leader during a memorial service. Interpretation 2. The message was indirectly aimed at Jonathan and Susie Lamb and framed criticism of Joni as opposition to God's work. Those who hold the second view often describe the message as spiritual pressure or spiritual abuse, arguing that it discourages accountability by suggesting that questioning leadership is spiritually dangerous. A major theme in the controversy is accountability. Critics argue that no spiritual leader should be beyond criticism and point to biblical examples where leaders were confronted when they acted wrongly. Supporters of that view say that concerns about financial decisions, leadership choices, or family conduct should be open to examination rather than dismissed as rebellion. On the other hand, defenders of the funeral message argue that a memorial service is not the proper place to relitigate every controversy surrounding a public figure. So the argument is not only about Joni Lamb, it is also about how religious communities should balance respect for leaders with accountability. One reason many viewers sympathized with Jonathan was his public response after the funeral. Rather than escalating the conflict, he posted memories of his mother, describing her love for the Lord, family moments, and the personal ways she cared for him. Even people who disagreed with him on other issues often acknowledged that the tribute was respectful and affectionate. For supporters, that response reinforced the image of someone trying to honor his mother despite deep family tensions. Underlying all of this is a larger question. Who should lead Daystar going forward? Many observers believe the public conflict is not only about personal relationships, it is also about influence, legacy, and control of a major Christian media organization. Some voices argue that Jonathan should play a larger leadership role. Others support the current leadership structure involving Rachel Lamb Brown and other Daystar leaders. Because the organization has significant reach and resources, leadership questions naturally attract intense attention. Regardless of which side someone believes, the situation reveals how quickly personal grief can become public controversy when family, faith, and organizational power intersect. For some people, the story is about a son seeking reconciliation. For others, it is about defending the legacy of a ministry. For still others, it is a warning about what happens when criticism, authority, and spirituality become intertwined. What makes the story compelling is not just the allegations, It is the human conflict underneath them: loss, loyalty, leadership, forgiveness, and the struggle over what should happen next.
So, where does this go from here? Will the family find a path toward reconciliation? Will the leadership questions surrounding Daystar become clearer? Or will the public debate continue to grow? For now, one thing is certain. The funeral that many hoped would bring healing instead became the starting point for a new chapter in the Daystar controversy. If you're making a video, a good ending question is, do you think this is primarily a family tragedy, a leadership dispute, or a larger conversation about accountability in Christian ministries? Let me know in the comments.